Hey everyone, this is RayRob, where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob, and we want to welcome you to a brand new episode of A Copy of a Copy.
A copy of a copy. A copy of a copy. A copy of a copy. A copy of a copy. A copy of a copy. A copy of a copy. A copy of a copy. A copy of a copy. A copy of a copy.
Yes, Rob, we are back with our third episode of Copy of a Copy already in 2026. We are moving right along.
We are moving right along.
Tell everybody, Rob, I want to make sure this is our third episode of Copy of a Copy. This is like season 2 of Copy of a Copy, but in case somebody's new to Copy of a Copy, tell everybody what we do here.
Absolutely. Here at A Copy of a Copy, Ray and I watch originals and remakes, and we kind of analyze different types of remakes, why they may have been made, and kind of answer some of those questions. You know, there's a lot of people that get kind of annoyed with remakes.
Yeah.
And we try to, while we can understand, understand why, we try to maybe shed a new light on it and maybe understand why this movie was made.
And I think for the most part, we've done that, almost probably to a surprising degree for me. I thought I would be a person that naturally fell into the category that you were just explaining, where I hate the idea of remakes, but I think we found some really good ones. So people, if you've not checked out other episodes of Copy, do so. We've had a lot of good reasons for why people have made some really good remakes, and we might have a good one here too.
Absolutely, and we keep finding new ones, which is what I think what we definitely have. We definitely have found a new one today, because we have done before in the past the foreign film made for an American audience.
Yes.
Now we are going to be watching an American film and one made for a foreign audience. So we're going in the reverse.
That's right, because we are doing Sideways, which I have not seen in a minute, so I'm going to be really glad to go back to that. And then what's been its remake?
It's the Japanese version,
right.
Also called Sideways.
Well, that makes sense, because it's a remake
sense.
of Sideways.
Exactly, but it doesn't always
no,
work that way.
No, of course not. We saw Wings of Desire and City of Angels.
Exactly. So sometimes they change the name, but they didn't do that here. It is still Sideways. For those of you who haven't seen Sideways, the original film, 2004, directed by Alexander Payne, stars Paul Giamatti, Thomas Hayden Church, Virginia Madsen, and Sandra Oh. Mm-hmm. And Paul Giamatti is a teacher, unsuccessful writer, and he and a washed-up actor friend, played by Thomas Hayden Church, go on a week-long road trip to the Santa Barbara wine country, where they end up kind of celebrate Brett Jack's wedding. That's right. So Thomas Hayden Church is getting married, so it's to celebrate the wedding. It's like a bachelor thing. They're going up to wine country, and while they're there, they kind of get intertwined with these two women, Virginia Madsen and Sandra Oh, and kind of have a whirlwind kind of relationship.
THC is a bit of a
he's a bit of a horn
dog.
He's a bit of a dog.
He's trying to get everything in before he gets married, I think. And Paul Giamatti, who is actually going to be on back-to-back episodes of A Copy for us. If you weren't careful, you would have missed it. But he was in Sabrina the remake.
Yes.
And now he's in the original movie that we're doing today with Sideways.
Exactly. Now, as far as the Japanese remake goes, I know it takes place in Napa as opposed to the Santa Barbara wine country.
Oh, it does take place in America?
I guess so.
Okay.
I've never. So full disclosure, I've never seen
Neither have I.
The remake. So I'm actually really excited, because I knew it existed.
Yeah.
But never got around to watching it for whatever
we have a great
reason
now.
But so just the quick little thing, it says Machio Sato is a middle-aged Japanese screenwriter with little success. He is a former foreign student who returns to California to attend the wedding of his best friend, to an American. So I don't know if this is maybe I don't. It says it's foreign language though, so I'm guessing.
Yeah,
it's.
I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We have American movies that were made not in America, so that's,
sure. In English, maybe it's the reverse here. So
yeah.
It's made in America, but it's still in Japanese language. But before the wedding, the two men take one last bachelor trip to the Napa Valley, where they meet a woman that Sato once tutored and admired, and her barista friend.
Okay.
So, and they become romantically entangled. So, yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, you can see the threads.
Yes, for
you
sure.
see the threads of the two movies, but how they play out, I don't know.
Yeah, and so it's going to be interesting to see if this was like an adaptation worth making for the Japanese audience, and did they make a great movie overall? I'll be interested to see. I like the fact that we both haven't seen the new one.
Yes, no, it doesn't happen often, but yeah,
Nope.
that's definitely not one I have seen, so I'm excited to watch it. But like you said, I have a lot of fond memories of the original Sideways. I worked at Blockbuster when
Yep.
this movie came out. Kind of one of those things.
I'm pretty sure we saw this in the theater together. I'm 90% sure.
Yeah, I would be shocked if we hadn't. So yeah, I think this was kind of a big movie for me at that point. And but yeah, it is kind of one that's kind of fallen off the wayside. You know, not necessarily Hello Movies material, but not that old, but still a movie that I did enjoy. So like you, I am excited to revisit it. I love Paul Giamatti, so kind of getting any chance to watch his movie is it's a treat. A treat, exactly.
Absolutely. Well, then let's do that.
Let's do it right now.
We're going to invite you guys to do the same thing. If you want to check out Sideways or the remake called Sideways, pause the podcast now, check them out. That's what me and Rob are going to do. When you guys are done accomplishing that task, unpause the podcast, come back, and listen to me and Rob as we see if this remake of Sideways was worth making and if it holds its own.
Ray and Rob are currently watching the film. Wait, films? There are two? How long is this supposed to take? I've got places to be, you know. Ray and Rob will be right back when they're done watching the film.
All right, everyone. Ray and I are back. We are back from Napa. We are back from Santa Barbara. We have been all over California. Hollywood. We have been all over California.
Not Japan, though.
Not Japan. No, we did not go to Japan. If you're being a Japanese movie, we did not go to Japan once.
No, we didn't. We were on the way at the end, but we didn't get to go. So, well, you know, Rob, after watching these two movies, usually on this podcast, we try to break down why did they make this remake? What was the point? What were they going for? And I got to admit, I am kind of struggling with why this Japanese movie adapted Sideways. Why Sideways?
Sure.
It's not coming to me. It's not clear to me right now.
Yeah, I can understand that. Because I think a lot of the story elements of Sideways were almost kind of lost in Saidoweizu.
I definitely think a lot was
just
lost in
Saidoweizu.
translation.
We looked it up. Saidoweizu.
That's what we're going with.
We're going with that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff was lost in translation to me.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Like, what can I try to hook onto? Like, what would you say? Like, why did they pick Sideways? Because and right now I'm thinking like this was just there wasn't. I'm thinking it's not a good fit.
Right. Well, I guess for me, you know, if you look at it from the standard, a foreign film remake to an American audience, it's always, you know, again, trying to figure out how to connect to that American audience. So I would imagine it's the same here with Sideways and Saidoweizu. Now, maybe we need to talk about it a little more and kind of figure out what it is about the Japanese remake that would maybe necessitate it for a Japanese audience. So I think that's my best guess. But let's talk about it because we might stumble upon it.
Well, let's talk about one of the things that obviously will stand out most when you think about the movie Sideways is being in Napa Valley, as we discussed,
right? And
the wine, right? And it's like being in Napa Valley, the setting is so important to the Sideways because it so much defines Miles's character.
Yeah.
And it's what he connects to, and it's kind of what pulls him out of this place when he finds that Maya can have the same kind of interest.
Right.
But I really don't feel like the setting was important in the remake. It doesn't feel like it fit as well at all. I'd much rather have been in Japan with an equivalent, but I don't know if making sake is equivalent, but like, you know what I mean? Like just something more culturally relevant. Didn't have to necessarily be wine. Just had to be something that Miles was latched onto culturally.
Yeah. I don't necessarily disagree with that. You know, obviously it made it feel like kind of like Sideways because, you know, while Napa and Santa Barbara are two different places, the landscape was generally the same, you know, like as far as the look. And obviously going to the different wineries and everything like that. Like that that stuff all felt familiar between both movies. And I think you're right in that the two sets of characters didn't fit in that background the same.
No, which made it feel like a ripoff to me more than it felt like, you know what I mean? Like it,
Right.
because the wine wasn't important, and like Michio likes wine,
Right.
but he doesn't love it with the passion that Miles does,
or at least it doesn't come across that way.
Yeah, he does. Well, yeah, because he's not overly explaining every single thing, every single thing, and he doesn't act like a know-it-all to every single person that he talks about with wine. Like
Right.
with Miles, it's compulsive; he has to talk about wine.
Right.
Michio is just like a fan of wine.
Yeah.
Is what it comes across.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's actually take it into the character realm, because so you're right. Like both of the backgrounds are the same, and as we just said, one set of friends fits, the other doesn't. So let's take the characters, and I think you went right to the heart of it. I think the Miles and Michio characters are kind of one of the big cruxes of that. Now, I think with Miles, obviously, and I'm a big Paul Giamatti fan, and
Sure.
just the kind of types of characters that he plays, but there is that darkness to Miles. He constantly walks around with that dark cloud over his head, like it's constantly raining on just him and nobody else.
Yeah.
And you're right, like that compulsion to talk about wine is almost like a safety blanket. Like it's a way to kind of like make himself feel better about himself compared to the other people maybe around him, or at least on the same level. Like it elevates him to certain levels with the people that he's interacting with. Michio, you're right, it almost seems just like kind of like a passing thing.
Yeah.
Like he uses some of the same verbiage. Like there's even like the same kind of scene where he's talking to I'm definitly going to butcher this name, but Daisuke.
I'm gonna call him Daisuke.
Daisuke.
Let's be consistent.
Right, Daisuke, and where they're kind of he's trying to teach him how to drink wine
A little bit.
little bit, but it doesn't go anywhere near the level that I feel like Miles and Jack go into. So you're right, it's almost like they kind of do a flyby.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where you're getting that vibe, and I think you're accurate. Is where it feels like some of this stuff is like a mile high view.
Yeah.
It's like a mile high view of it, and it's instead of being like right on top of it like Sideways is.
Yeah, I kind of had the impression when I was watching the movie, I'm like, whoever wrote the movie Sideways clearly understands wine and was important for him to get it right. Whoever wrote Saidoweizu is like, they like the movie Sideways and they're trying to include some wine stuff in this movie.
Right.
But they don't understand it like the writer of Sideways does.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so obviously you're not going to get that in depthness. But, just kind of comparing the Miles character to Michio, I just think like, those characters are miles apart for me in terms of like my ability to relate to them.
Sure.
Not that I relate to Miles and that I'm equally desperate,
Right.
but like you understand his plight so much more. You're rooting for him to dig himself out. You're rooting for Maya to help dig himself out of this. You want him to get out of this depression, be able to move on with his life.
Yeah.
In a healthy manner. Where Michio, like I just really never understood what I was supposed to be rooting for with him. Like he didn't seem all that upset in life. Like he has broken up with his girlfriend, but he can kind of look on the bright side about it because he has a pot remaining from that breakup.
Right.
Where Miles sees no bright side. Like there is no bright side around. He is stuck into depression. And then it just kind of seems like to me Michio's on vacation and he's a little bummed out when his friend ditches him. But like I don't really see his arc.
Yeah.
Like and I don't know if maybe just Miles is too dark a character for like a Japanese audience and they really wanted to change that. But again, when we talk about like why would you want to remake this movie if you're not going to do Miles right, and it doesn't have to be exactly the same, but he's got to be someone who's digging himself out of a hole, and I just did not feel that with Michio.
Yeah, I think for me, it's laying that early groundwork where you realize Miles is a loser almost immediately.
Yeah, and
like,
there's a lot of things that's not fun to watch.
Right. Like, waking up late, the whole, like, having to move his car thing, like, and it's parked weird. I don't like, that's such a weird little funny, like, element to me. It's like, it's parked like he was drunk when he drove home.
Sure.
Like, those things are, apparent.
Steals money from his mom.
Right.
Early on.
Early on. Like, all that stuff's, like, really apparent right out of the gate. Whereas with, Michio, he gets off the plane and he just seems like a mild-mannered guy.
Yeah.
And, like, every interaction is very mild-mannered. Like, it's, and part of that, I'm sure, is the cultural element of Japanese culture compared to American culture. And there's a tradition and a properness to these things that I think typically play out differently to different audiences. So that, kind of going back to why, that could be that stuff would and could play better to a Japanese audience compared to an American audience because of, like I said, certain cultural restraints.
Yeah, it would be more normalized. Yeah,
right.
It would be more normalized. But I'm still like, but are you going to connect with that character or root for that character? Like,
I don't disagree.
Yeah, I mean, you're essentially you're just like you just have to watch this movie and want him to get with Mayuko because he's always loved her, and you just want it to work out for him, and you just hope it does, and it really almost never feels like it won't.
Right.
You know, so it's just kind of like watching such a basic love story where when you watch Sideways, you really want him to end up with Maya, but it's because like you know how much better she'll be for him. You know, like how much it'll change his current life condition. Like you're rooting for more than just for them to kiss. You know what I mean? You're rooting for Miles to like just completely change his outlook on life entirely.
Right.
Maya has the ability to do that. So it's just like you're just so much more invested into the story because Miles' character is so much deeper.
Well, and to make a kind of a comparison, it's almost like Harold and Maude because, you know, Harold is obsessed with death.
Yeah.
Maude is obsessed with life.
Right.
And like, so that's also like an element on top of just the romantic side of it. I think you can even implant that a little bit here with Miles and Maya because while he's not, you know, obsessed with death, his overall demeanor is that same vein.
Yeah.
And Maya is the opposite. Like she is, you know, trying to better herself. She wants to, you know, be a horticulturalist and do all these things. And like she's got a very optimistic outlook where Miles doesn't. So you can see why those, you know, you would root for that relationship. Right. Whereas with Michio, you know, his journey, even as professionally, like as like the screenwriter that he is now and all of that, like some of that gets very muddled and kind of like lost in the weeds. And then like Miles is flat out because he's rejected.
Yes.
I get that. Like he is rejected. And with Michio, it's like, okay, yes, your screenplay is being produced. It's going to be the, you know,
right,
the special.
It's good.
It's good. But then like, oh, but we're going to rewrite it.
Right.
And then we're, you know, your
they
student
even say, like,
is
touch it up. At first, like, you just think they're going to touch it up. So it's like, okay, well, everything's going good for Michio.
Right. And then he finds out that it's still being produced, but they're doing rewrites with a student of his, and the student's going to get the credit for writing it, and he's just going to get an original premise.
And that sucks.
Credit. And that does suck, but it's also a thing where you're like, that is an industry thing that, you know, if you're in the industry, you understand the severity of that. If you're not, you're kind of like, what's the big deal?
Did you get paid the same?
Right, because he does. She even says, like, it's not going to affect your pay or anything like that. So, like, if you're not in that industry in that way, you may not understand why that is such a knife in the heart.
Yeah.
Whereas with Miles, it's like, he's rejected. He's rejected. That's it. Like, he's got a novel that's not going to be published.
Yep.
You got that. You know, you can't really...
No one will ever see his work.
Right. Nobody's ever going to see it. It's done. So, I think those kinds of little changes between the two characters are actually, they change the impact and the stakes of the moment.
Yep. Yeah. And then so then when they both have their meltdown scene, when you're watching Miles meltdown and like dumping the wine all over his body, it's just absolutely disgusting.
Right.
Sip wine or basically. And it's like you just feel bad for him because you understand this meltdown more, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it just looks pathetic and sad, and it's just it's like almost hard to, like, uncomfortable to watch. Where I think when Michio does it, it's almost slapstickier because it's like, yeah, Miles is in the gutter.
Yeah.
Michio, I'm like, you that sucks, but like maybe you're overreacting now. So now since you're overreacting, it's almost funny.
Right. And so I think another level of that, because I don't even think it comes off comedic. Like, so you're talking about like slapsticky. Like, I don't even know if it comes off comedic. It feels awkward when it happens.
Or it just doesn't fit.
Right. And I think also part of that, and this goes to, you know, just the Saidoweizu film in general, any American in this movie is awful.
Yeah.
Like, their performance is awful. Like, it feels so stilted and weird and unnatural, and I think part of that is because they're trying to act in a Japanese film,
formal,
right? And I think they're trying to, like, and that could have been the direction they were given, and I would have to believe so because every character does this.
Sure.
The only exception might be the host mother that
Yeah.
gives them the Mustang
Yeah.
because she did kind of try to
But she's
mirror
still a
Paul
bad actor.
Giamatti's mom. She is, but it's like she's trying to do an impression of the
Yeah.
actress that played Paul
Yeah.
Giamatti's
Yeah.
mom. But other than that, I feel like every American in the movie feels like they're in glass, like
Yeah.
encased in glass, giving their performance.
And that's a great point, an interesting perspective. I just looked at it as they hired bad actors because they're like, this will all be subtitled. Our audience won't really focus in on, on their performance anyway, so it doesn't matter. But
yeah,
makes more sense the way you said it. But speaking of slapsticky, let's talk about Jack
right,
and Daisuke.
yes.
This movie took Thomas Hayden Church. Sideways 2004 took Thomas Hayden Church, he shot him out like a rocket.
Yeah, I think he got nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this, and kind of basically put a rocket on his back in the industry.
I don't think this did that for the actor that plays Daisuke. Again,
no,
I just really did not like this translation of the character either. To me, Jack is suave and he's cool and he's charming,
right?
And Daisuke was just to me, he was just awkward. He's everybody laughs at him in the movie, but I'm like, they're laughing at him in the movie because that's what's written in the script, and people that person reacts with a laugh. Nothing he's doing is funny. His one suave move is he gets a girl's number and then he eats it. I was like, that's not cool in America or whatever or anywhere I would think, but that's not cool and it's not funny. And it's I don't get it.
And their reaction to it was weird.
The one girl thought it was funny and the other girl was like, what is he doing?
Right. Yeah.
But I was like, and that's what I was like. I was like, wait, what is he doing?
Yeah.
I just did not get it. And I don't think it felt true to what you would want from the Jack character.
Yeah. No, I agree with that completely. I think they really relied hard on the idea that he is a former, he is an actor who is recognizable.
Yeah, he was a former Power Ranger, basically.
Right.
It's what?
Yeah. So I can agree with that too. With Jack, it was understandable because he was a former soap opera star.
Yeah.
And there's an entire audience, of older women,
sure,
there's women that love that. So
absolutely.
that I think absolutely you can connect to why women would be attracted to him because of that. Daisuke, you're this is like a kid's show, right? Because all the kids recognized him, when he was trying to buy condoms and stuff like that. Yeah. It's oh, it's Captain Ninja or whatever, and it's okay, while I'm not saying people wouldn't recognize him, it's also, I don't think that would necessarily make him a ladies' man.
No.
And I think that's kind of the problem is, and this actor doesn't necessarily embody that either.
No.
Now, that's unfair because one, it's you're kind of putting, certain body standards on on a guy, just like it's unfair to put them on a woman. But it's also, like you said, that charisma that would come with that would overcome isn't there. It comes off as just goofy and weird.
Yeah, it's very goofy.
But that could be, again, it's that cultural thing that maybe I don't connect with because I'm not,
well, it was American women that were falling for it.
Right. But again, that's coming back to what we're talking about for our main point of this conversation is this being made for a Japanese audience.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that could also be part of it as well, is I'm not necessarily going to get it because I'm not necessarily meant to. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. So, but I guess, and understand that point. And obviously, you are making this movie for an audience, so you want to make a movie that an audience is going to respond to.
Right.
But then I'm still well, but if you're changing all the characters so significantly, then why remake it to begin with?
Fair enough.
So I still think we're circling back to where we're starting this conversation. And I also have to say that the biggest thing for me that I did not appreciate with Saidoweizu is, I feel like with Saidoweizu, they justified Daisuke's character.
Yes.
They were trying to justify his cheating on his fiance.
Right.
And when I say justify it, they gave him a reason that he could actually latch onto that I think made sense.
Yeah.
Being with Mina let him reconnect with his homeland and his memories of going home.
Right.
And he's considering wanting to go home with her. And I'm like, wow, these are all real good reasons to not get married.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is if you're going to halt your marriage, these are actually life choices somebody should think about. This actually makes sense.
Yeah.
And now I don't think you're as much of a sleazeball.
Right. And so it's funny you bring that up. I actually wrote down in my notes, Daisuke wants to go back to Japan to open a restaurant with Mina. Does it really seem that crazy by comparison to Jack? No, you're right. It doesn't. And I think, and part of it, because of that, it makes the stakes feel lower for Daisuke than Jack. And part of that, and I'll ask you this question because I do feel like it is for me, is the fact that Mina didn't have kids. Like,
Yeah.
Wow, my mind just went blank.
Stephanie.
Stephanie, thank you. Stephanie's character, or Sandra Oh's character, she has a daughter.
Right.
And like you're watching Jack kind of ingrain himself into her life.
It makes it way sleazier.
Right, it makes it way sleazier. He's like getting close to her daughter, close to her mother-in-law, like all of these things. Where her mother, it's mother, not mother. Mother, yeah, mother. And all these things, which, funny enough, she's the mom in Hocus Pocus. I don't know if she is, that. Yeah. But anyway, side note. But it's funny because I feel like Daisuke kind of maybe needed something like that to really sell the idea of him being a sleazeball.
Right.
Otherwise, you're right. He comes off as a guy who's having a genuine conundrum. But maybe that's what they wanted. They didn't want him to just be a dog. Whereas, like, Jack is literally just a dog.
I know, but I feel like that is what makes Sideways work. And again, to me, if you're changing, I totally get, I don't want a remake being shot for shot, but I feel like the characters have to have some thread.
Right.
And the thread can't be they both cheated on their wives. That's not a thread. Like, the character thread is not there. And so you're right. Like what I'm saying, like, Daisuke did not feel like a sleazeball. It felt like he was going through a crisis, almost, of character. Like, he was really deciding who does he want to be for the rest of his life.
Right.
And they go out of their way a little bit to make his in-laws be annoying too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, his his potential father-in-law is like, seems like he can be a bit annoying, and it seems like he's demanding and maybe not 100% approving. Like, all of these are good reasons to not get married. Now, of course, he is cheating on his wife, and of course he's cheating on his fiance, so that is sleazy.
Yeah.
But they're giving him reasons to actually do it that makes sense. Where Jack has no reasons to cheat on Christine. Christine is a peach, and Christine is also the warden from Orange Is the New Black. Did you catch that?
I did not catch that.
She is.
That's
like,
awesome.
Yeah, but Jack is just a sleaze, like you said. He's a sleaze for cheating on his fiance for no reason. He just wants to. He knows it's his last opportunity because maybe he's going to be faithful once they get married, but like, he's got to get this out of his system.
Yeah,
and then, like you said, attaching himself to a girl that has a kid. Yeah. And even though he's pretending like, hey, I might want to move in, marry with her, like, Miles knows he's never going to like marry Stephanie in this movie. He's just convincing himself. He's just justifying it for the moment.
Yeah.
And he's like dodging her calls. Like, everything Jack does is sleazy when it comes to how he's treating his relationship with Christine.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other half of it too with that is the chemistry that he has with Miles, because while it's so apparent that Miles is a loser right off the bat, you discover throughout the course of Sideways that Jack's also a loser.
Yeah.
For various other reasons.
Right.
Like, he's living off the fact that he had this one soap opera role and kind of like uses that to, get women to like him.
And does commercial work.
And does commercial work now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and where I feel like Daisuke is like, yes, he's a former actor, but he's also like, he manages a restaurant now, and like he seems like, yes, he works for his father-in-law, which, they talk about that a little bit with Jack and Sideways, but he doesn't seem as much of a loser. But then again, neither does Michio, so it's like neither character feels like they get to the depths of either one of these characters. But they do have some of the same comic beats. So, we talk about Jack and Cammy, the waitress, like when he ends up, going back with and then like the husband comes home and he comes up, rushes back naked, and he has his big breakdown scene. Now, I will.
Jack does,
and I'm going to circle back. Right, Jack does. Thomas Hayden Church, and I'm going to circle back to that. But Daisuke has the same thing where he like has this hot cop that randomly like pulls him over like it's freaking Days of Thunder or something.
Right, exactly.
And like then ends up back at her house, to which she's like a dominatrix, and then she like, I was a little surprised by that they took it that far, because I do know like sexuality in Japanese filmmaking is a bit.
But they took out all the nudity and stuff.
And they did. They took out all the nudity. There's none of that. Like, not like, when Miles walks into Jack banging Stephanie, and it's just like, whoa. And
that scene, I think, did not have any tension to me. Like, when Michio's getting the keys, it was so much more underwhelming.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that completely. And again, it's because every performance by every American in this movie was awful.
Yeah.
And yeah, you kind of bought into the moment of Cammy and her husband, you
Right.
know, like kind of like having this like hot steamy sex scene,
Yeah.
you know,
It
kind of
felt
getting off on the
dangerous.
idea,
Yeah.
right, over what had happened with Jack, and there is an element of danger that's there that you're right does not really translate well into Saidoweizu. Circling back for a minute to Jack and his breakdown scene. So one thing I will say about a rewatch of Sideways is the idea that while I think Thomas Hated Church is great, I like Jack as a character. I do wonder if he really has the arc that it feels like he has. And this
Yeah.
is just maybe my mind overthinking it, but like I think it all really does hinge on that scene that I mentioned. Him coming back completely naked, having that breakdown like I fed up. I fed up. I'm
Yeah.
going to go home. You know what I mean? Like really like breaking down and saying like I'm gonna go back, like and that's that.
Right.
And obviously it's post Cammy and all of that, so it's like he's really hit rock bottom at that point. But my question to you is, do you think that he would have had that breakdown scene if like that incident with Cammy hadn't have happened?
Yeah. I don't know.
Is he just mad that he got caught?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And or is like I can't do this. Like I've run out of luck. Like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go home.
I kind of think of
is it real?
yeah. And I guess it's kind of be like I think you'd have to project what you want to project onto Jack to answer that. And I think
Right.
what I project onto Jack, because like we talk about all the time, when you're viewed as a protagonist, we root for you even if you're doing horrible things.
Right.
But it's like what I project onto Jack is like this was his week where he basically gave himself a hall pass.
Right.
And he was allowed to be as bad a person as he could for 1 week.
Right.
And as soon as he came back, he was going to get married and be all in, and that was going to be his life. And he was going to be fine. He was going to be happy with it. It was going to be fine.
Yeah.
But he gets stuck in the middle where it's like, oh shoot, I can't come back. I can't get out. I can't go back to my regular life at this moment because I don't have the rings and I have a broken face. And so I think that's where he breaks down. So I don't like. I would agree that it's not a character arc. It's just like he's just reverting back to like where he was.
Right.
But I do think he is reverting back to where he was. And it's almost more like he's crying like a little kid would cry when they get caught doing something bad.
Exactly. And that's kind of my thing. It's like, so, but in the end, it's not about Jack. It's about Miles. So I think for me, like, that's what kind of gets me over that hump. It's just like, it's not really about Miles. So if he doesn't have an arc, I'm sorry, it's not about Jack. If he doesn't have an arc that like feels really fulfilled, then that's fine. Because, they have the wedding and whatever. Now, on the flip of that with Daisuke, like he has the thing where like the scene where they do the car crash, because again the same kind of comedic beats, which I wasn't sure if they were going to do that.
Yeah.
And he tells Michio, like, I told you, Laura is the sum of my possibilities. So it's like at that point, like he really verbalizes like this is it. Like she's the end all be all for me. And then at the wedding scene, to have Laura and Daisuke be the ones to kind of like push Michio out, like I feel I'm going to give Saidoweizu maybe a little bit of a compliment in this, where that feels like a better ending point for the Daisuke character.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like he is settled, he is married, and now it's time for Michio to go and do what he needs to do the same. And so not saying that it does it better than Sideways per se, but I think it especially for the work that they did in Saidoweizu, it feels like a pretty good spot for that character.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like that's that it kind of shows that the Daisuke like Jack character is like back to normal.
Yeah.
In a sense, and is pushing Michio to move forward and get back to his normalcy. But I will say also like I don't feel like I needed that necessarily in Sideways, because I just think I always felt like I don't know, I like a Jack and Miles, like as a pair on screen, always work for me in the movie. Like,
definitely,
they complement each other well, almost like this
100%.
opposites attract. They can keep each other in line. They have this honesty in their friendship that is like you could tell like you would only be earned through years of friendship, where you could basically call each other losers and like curse at each other and say you're ruining your life. Kind of those kind of conversations.
Yeah.
Don't drink too much. You're being an alcoholic. Like
sure.
But like I don't feel like when I watched Michio and Daisuke, like their friendship feels more hollow, I guess.
Sure.
So I am glad at the final scene where you see like Daisuke do something to help Michio more. Like it does make it look like their friendship is more real on screen.
Right.
So I appreciate that too. But to say I don't think I need that from Jack, because I just know like Jack and Miles are having these conversations. Like
Right.
they're friends that can and do. So I get that. So now, so like the endings of these movies were kind of similar,
It's kind
but a
of,
little
yeah.
different. And so, if we kind of, I guess, we've talked about Daisuke and his love interest. Really, when we talked on Miles and Michio, but not really Michio and Mayuko.
Right.
And so, like that relationship, kind of bouncing back and forth. First of all, I really struggled this movie knowing how far apart they are in age. Like he was her tutor in high school, but I'm like, I
Right.
can't tell how much older you look than this actress and how much time has passed. So
Sure.
I was like, wait, is this something I should be rooting for or not? I don't know.
Right.
But that love story again was like, I kind of already mentioned how like Maya is there to help Miles's character
Mm-hmm.
and like dig him out of that ditch. But like in this character or in this movie, it felt so much more like I'm rooting for Michio to get with Mayako because he likes her
Right.
and because he always has, and that's really it. Like
Right.
there isn't a lot of depth to like their pairing.
Yeah, I agree, and I actually just looked it up. They are 15 years apart.
Okay,
So
if
take that
like,
knowledge.
so
for
like
what
he
it-
was a
what you
30-year-old and she was a 15-year-old and he
Right.
wanted to hook up with her. It's like, okay, I don't know if I should be rooting for
All
him.
right, so
Yeah.
fair enough. But yeah, I mean it's, and again, like I think some of it goes back to, like you said, kind of like a translation thing where with Michio and Mayuko, as opposed to like Miles and Maya, I feel there is a lot of superficiality
Mhm.
to their relationship.
Yeah.
They haven't, and it doesn't feel like they do the work to get you to connect the two, so much so that you want them to end up together.
Right.
And I feel like ultimately having her weakness and need kind of center very much around like what we kind of talked about with Daisuke, about like, does she go back to Japan or does she stay in America? It all felt a bit muddled by the end.
Yeah.
And
I
I
didn't
didn't
know
really,
what I was rooting for.
yeah, I don't really understand at the end either whether I'm rooting for her to go back to Japan or stay here with America,
Yeah.
or stay in America. And I mean, I guess if you wanted them together, you would assume she'd have to go back to Japan, because it didn't seem like
He would move.
Michio was moving to the U.S. because that offer was made. But I don't know.
She has a prosperous career in Japan where he doesn't really have anything in America. But you're right, because it was kind of like it's bad for Daisuke to go to Japan, but it's good for Mayuko to do it. So I'm like,
Right.
wait, why is it? I don't know what I'm rooting for here.
Yeah, and so I think that unfortunately took a bit away from the ending,
Yeah.
which is funny because I was curious if they were going to have the same ending, like when he rushed to her house and whatever, kind of just like in the original, and like knocked on the door, and that was it. You didn't see them on screen together. You don't know what her real reciprocation was.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, maybe you will see that in this. But then he gets to her house and she's at the airport going to Japan, and then Mina shows up and is like, you need to go, go get her,
Yeah.
or whatever. And like, that's the end of the movie. So you
Right.
still don't see them on screen together, but you can assume, I guess, that they're going to end up together.
Yeah, it's going to work out. And
Yeah.
stuff. So, and I guess I guess, like I said, that's like what I guess we were rooting for. But like you said, I do feel like it seems more superficial too, because like when you build in the backstory, like these are really connected characters. They've known each other for a long time. They've almost gone on dates before.
Yeah.
Like it's not a reach for him to win her over, I guess. Even though
Yeah.
it feels a little icky to me. Wherein like Miles and Maya are basically strangers. You know what I mean?
In
So like
certain regards, yeah.
like he's known her as a waitress, but
Right,
never
yeah.
has talked with her after hours
Right.
a little bit. But like, so like him winning her over, that was a feat that had to be accomplished.
Right.
He didn't have like good standing necessarily with
Right.
her already.
This was definitely with Mayuko and Michio. It was more of like, this was like unrequited, or I don't want to say unrequited love, but like a previous love that didn't get a chance to blossom for
Right.
X, Y, and Z reason.
She was too young.
Right. Wow. Yes.
But yeah, but also
Definitely.
like Maya had to win over Miles too. Like Miles was
Sure.
like Miles had his own hookups and things that hurdles Maya had to jump over,
Right.
which she does in spades.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think this is going to kick off for me the conversation of why I think this was made.
Okay.
Why Saidoweizu was made.
Let's do that.
So you brought up Miles and Maya and what Maya had to do to quote unquote win over Miles.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that it was talked about in both movies, and I think one to a more, I guess, a more intensive degree, is the metaphor of grapes as people,
right.
and wine. So when Miles and Maya are at Stephanie's house, when Stephanie and Jack hook up for the first time, they're kind of talking about, like, why do you like Pinot?
Right.
Why do you like Cabernet or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, why does Miles like Pinot?
Right.
And he goes into why he likes Pinot, which is essentially like, it's a hard grape. You know what I mean? And like, but if you give it the time and you give it the effort and all of that, it's worth the reward. That's again, a very shorthand version of what he says.
Right.
But it's that.
He says it way better than you just did.
He does. He said it way better than I did. But my point is that,
and her response is great. Maya's response is equally great too.
Right.
It's a great scene.
Yeah, and it's like, because she also talks about why she likes wine, is about like thinking about what's happening when the grapes are growing, and because the bottle of wine is actually alive, and like things like that, and it really kind of goes to this like overall metaphor about like kind of a connection of nature to humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but that's kind of it as far as Sideways, the original, goes into that overt metaphor, right? It's not overt. They don't beat you over the head with it. On the other hand, Saidoweizu really goes into it. They talk about this multiple times, and it's brought up really even towards the end. Like,
Cab is stubborn,
right.
Pinot's lonely.
Right, like they're really beating you over the head with it. So for me, and I think the metaphor is great. Like, I think it's what makes Sideways kind of almost bearable, because Miles is not a likable character. I think, and I'm obviously not a believer that the character has to be likable in that way for you to root for them or for the movie to be interesting.
Right.
I mean, essentially, this is like the most pretentious bachelor party ever that you're watching.
Sure.
You know what I mean, through this thing, and so you're kind of like having to get through it. But this idea of grapes as people, grapes as a metaphor for a person, a bottle of wine, that kind of thing, it is a very strong metaphor, and I think it works, and what makes Sideways so interesting. I think that is what the Japanese filmmaker really connected to, was that idea, because there's a lot of right, that connection of humanity and nature, and I think that's really probably what drew the filmmaker to the original material, probably the book and the movie, was that idea, which is why it's expanded so much upon in the Japanese version, because it's something that I think that audience would connect with, maybe even more so than an American audience, because of just the high-minded nature of it. Yeah. And like I said, a cultural thing with Japanese culture, about like this connection of humanity and nature and the synergy of it.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and I can see that being the starting point of like the pitch for how to get this, how to get that movie made, Saidoweizu.
Yeah.
I still feel like too much gets lost in translation.
I don't necessarily disagree.
Yeah. No,
I'm definitely not saying that that it's successful.
Right.
At least enough for me, and it might be successful for somebody
else.
It
might not have been made for us, but
right. And that's the other half of it too, is it may not have been like, and sometimes I do think that does happen, where a film that's culturally made for another country doesn't translate well to an American audience, and even for people who love film, like it's just like some of it might just feel off.
Right.
But I don't. But to be fair, I don't know the reception that this got in Japan either. This could have bombed.
Yeah, it very well could have.
It could have bombed. I have no idea.
Well, because I always say too, like the movie has to live beyond the metaphor.
Absolutely.
And I think because of the change of the characters aren't compelling enough for me to like invest in the metaphor. Because I literally have in my notes, all right, like Mayuko is a cab, Michio is a Pinot, but I don't really care.
Right, and that's fair. Like, you have to care, right? 100%. I completely agree. You have to care about the metaphor beyond, or you have to care about the characters beyond the metaphor, so you can connect to the story overall. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I guess on that note, Rob, I would just say, I did really enjoy getting to watch Sideways again. It had been a long time, and I kind of wondered if this movie would hold up. We do that with another one of these shows.
Absolutely.
And to me, Sideways 2004 did hold up. The remake was just not as enjoyable for me, and it's not, it just didn't translate well to me.
Yeah.
And I think we explained some of the changes nicely about why they might have made them, but I just feel like it maybe just took away too much of what makes Sideways good in my eyes.
Yeah.
And it just kind of left the remake feeling a bit hollow. So. But I was glad we were able to see Sideways.
Well, definitely, and it's hard, obviously I have a lot of connection to Paul Giamatti
Sure.
and fond memories of this performance, obviously, when we're watching it when it came out, and then Thomas Hayden Church being great. I mean, the cast top to bottom is wonderful.
Yeah.
Virginia Madsen is great. Chandra Oh is great. And I think it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to overcome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you are such connected to the character. So if maybe you would watch Saidoweizu first, maybe you'd feel differently, but maybe not, and I'm not saying that, one way or the other, but it's just, it's a possibility at the
Sure.
very least. But I can agree, I was super, super glad that we kind of did this, because again, got to revisit Sideways, which was great. And I'm not mad that I watched Sideways.
No.
You know what I mean? It was definitely worth the time. It's just, yeah, like I said, lost in translation, and hey, that's okay.
All right, Rob, well, I think that wraps up our conversation pretty neatly on Sideways and Saidoweizu. We are kind of finishing up this conversation, and just like Miles, I will be a huge wino if our audience listening today does not like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast if they haven't done so. I hope they already did. And then review the podcast, because if you leave us a 5-star review, we're going to read it live on air someday. And don't forget, guys, you can also reach out to us on email at carrayrob@gmail.com. Ask Rob what his favorite type of wine is. I don't even know. And don't forget, you can also reach out to us on Blue Sky at carrayrob.
Absolutely. We are now on Facebook and Instagram. By all means, go and give us a like over there. See the fun stuff we are doing on those platforms. If there is a comment section on whatever platform you're on, by all means, let us know what you thought of Sideways and Saidoweizu. Let me know what your favorite Paul Giamatti movie is.
Ooh.
I think there's a lot of great
The
ones.
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Right.
I am the Rhino.
That's your favorite? Oh,
Yes.
man. Oh, man. You're getting ready to get ridiculed in the comment section. I can already tell. We will be back next week, and it will be Ray's episode of Say Hello to My Little Film, and I'm very excited to see what he has to show me for
I'm going
that.
to show you something that we've never seen on that show before.
And I know you know how much I love doing that.
Yes.
We will be back then in 2 weeks with this month's episode of Hello Movies, My Old Friend, where Ray and I are going to be revisiting the Australian comedy classic Young Einstein.
I don't know if I'm prepared for this, but I'm excited.
I'm not, but I am. What am I saying? I absolutely am. You gotta love Yahoo Serious. This is going to be super interesting to see how this movie holds up. We will be back next month with another great episode of A Copy of a Copy, where Ray and I think we have found another new type of remake to do.
We hope so.
And that is the spiritual remake, because we are going to be watching The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and the Korean, it's not a remake, but I guess close kind of deal with The Good, the Bad, and the Weird.
We'll decide if it's a remake
Exactly.
or not.
We're going to decide if it's a remake or not. Again, kind of a spiritual remake. But we are very excited about that, and you are not going to want to miss a single episode. But until then, this is RayRob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And remember, be defined by the films you love, not the ones you hate.
A copy of a copy. 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 A copy of a copy.